There you are. Hold on. Come on in. It's time. Yep. We'll get our comments working and then it all comes together. Might be a little bit loud in the office today. There are two other mammals in here with me, and they look like they're ready to destroy something. More on that later. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the highlight of human civilization. It's called Coffee with Scott Adams, and you've never had a better time. But if you'd like to take a chance about elevating your experience up to levels that no one can even understand with their tiny, shiny human brains, well, all you need for that is a copper mug or a glass, a tankard, chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure. The dopamine, end of the day, the thing that makes everything better is called the simultaneous sip. And it happens now. Everything's working. Paul, your timing is perfect. I know you do that intentionally. You always know when I'm looking at the screen. Good for you. All right. Well, good news. There's a New Jersey cat cafe coming. It will be called the Calico Cat Cafe. It's not ready yet, but Ben and Dora are opening it, and they'll have 12 cats. You can go in there and pet cats and play board games. And good luck playing a board game with. I don't think they thought this out. Imagine combining these two things: board games and cats. Do it. Everybody who has ever been around a cat knows you couldn't possibly have board games and cats in the same place. Those cats are going to scatter your board pieces. It might literally be the best idea and the worst idea of all time. It sounds so good on paper. It's like, whoa, I can go and play games and pet cats. And then the cats come in and say, how's your chess game? Whap, whap. All right, well, as you may know, we won't talk about this at length, the internet has a rumor that is false, of course, that I was pushing vaccines during the pandemic. Well, I did the opposite of that. And Jay Plemons was nice enough to put together a compilation of me doing what Jay calls whatever is the opposite of pushing the vaccines. So it's a compilation of all the times I say things like, but I'm not promoting the vaccine. I'm not a doctor. Only your doctor should promote it. Don't take medical advice from cartoonists. So I thought to myself, will this settle the question? Because there will be lots of people who say it. It's on X, and I thought, what are all those people going to do who were positive that I was pushing the vaccines when in fact I was not? And what do you think happened? Have you ever been in a situation where you were having a date with somebody, it might have been your spouse, and because we write everything down, their text messages and emails and stuff, have you ever had the experience where you could prove that your side of the argument was right in a way that was just undeniable? Here it is. Well, look, it's right there. It's right there in that message. Just read it yourself, and you can see that I was completely right and you were completely wrong. What happens in every domain, whether it's your marriage or your coworkers or anything else? What happens next when you prove somebody wrong with documentation that's irrefutable, they always change the topic and pretend they were always talking about something else. And that's what happened. So already this morning, some of the commenters are coming and saying, well, it wasn't really about the question of whether you were promoting the vax. It was, I know what it was. It was that you weren't fighting against mandates hard enough. And I thought, what? So that was always the question. So it was people who thought that if I didn't fight against the mandates hard enough, that was sort of kind of almost the same as promoting the vaccines. So that's what happens when you prove you're right. Somebody will say, well, you're not right because the topic was something related but different. That'll happen every time. All right, YouTube is on track to bring in $40 billion in ad revenue in 2025, according to a user called Dexerto. And they say the revenue is so high because of AI making shorts. I don't mean the kind that you wear to cover up your naughty bits. I mean a short video. Now, if you have not been hooked yet on YouTube's short video product, it's really good because it knows exactly what you want very quickly, and it starts feeding you just pure dopamine or whatever the chemical is that makes you happy. I have been battling an addiction to that. That's pretty bad. On the other hand, I also tell myself, well, why would I want to quit something that feels good? Because it's not like it's preventing me from working or falling in love or something. It's really not preventing anything. It's just filling in some hours. So I'm not sure if I'm addicted or I just found a new hobby that I like. But in related news, the co-founder of YouTube, one of the people who invented the thing and launched it, Steve Chen, he says he doesn't want his own kids watching YouTube Shorts or even TikTok or any of that kind of content because he says it's pure dopamine junk. It's rewiring kids so that they won't do anything if it doesn't last 15 seconds. If it's more than that, they just won't do it. Actually, 15 minutes. And according to Steve Chen, some parents are now forcing their kids to do long form stuff, whatever that is, just so that their brains are not destroyed by all the fast form AI stuff. So I guess AI is what created all the clickable content for those reels. And I have to say, the AI generated stuff does make me click it, but it's not as good as human made stuff that would be much more expensive to make. It looks like somebody just has a prompt where they go in and say, hey, AI, I want you to make me a video that would be like one of the viral ones on YouTube, and it will be about something in history that's not covered, but you can make it look interesting. Go. And then it makes you a little reel that's so clickable you can't believe it. Anyway, the big news today is that President Trump has another big win. He will tell you. He got a huge trade deal between the U.S. and the European Union. And would you be surprised to know that, like everything else, this is one of those two movies on one screen situations? Quiet, Gary. There might be some cats in the room. So the positive news about this deal with the EU is that even allies outside of the EU are saying that Trump got an amazing deal, and the United States got everything it wanted, and the European Union basically rolled over and caved on everything. So it's basically just better for us. Now, do you believe that? It might be true. I'm quite open and willing to believe that that's the case. This is Gary. I want to introduce Gary, who may be disturbing our future. His brother Roman is around here somewhere, roaming around. But anyway, as I was saying, not everybody will agree that this is the best trade deal of all time. Peter Schiff, who's famous for accurately predicting things in the past. I don't know how he's done lately, but he's one of these famous predictors about the economy. He says it's a bad deal for the U.S. It's good for the EU. So there's at least one famous smart guy who believes that the deal is better for Europe. But the larger consensus looks like about 99 to 1 is that the U.S. got a great deal. And there's even some thinking about why that is. And the why is that the European Union has become sort of an irrelevant zone of the world. And the U.S. is the hot country, as Trump says. And to put it in summary form, Europe needs the U.S. more than the U.S. needs Europe because they can't even defend themselves. So they need markets to sell to, and they need somebody to defend them. And I guess Trump did a good job of convincing them that giving us a good trade deal would be really, really good for their future defensive needs, which would have been sort of a brilliant way to approach that. So Trump's legend continues, and I will point out once again the high risk, but ultimately it's starting to look brilliant, the strategy of having all these different trade deals, which on one hand, you say to yourself, my goodness, all the chaos he created back in April. But he did tell us it would all calm down once they started making deals. And then what happened? He started making deals and it all calmed down. And the stock market said, oh, all right, no problem. Continue, go make some more deals. So Trump's out there making deals, and he gets to announce a new one at least once a week now. And it's just going to be win, 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 win. So Trump has created the ultimate summer event. Normally, the summer doesn't have any news, but because of these trade deals, there's going to be probably one of these a week for the rest of the summer as well. So brilliant, brilliant, brilliant managing of the news cycle by the Trump team. Nobody's ever done this better. The one thing that the Democrats and the non-Trump believers have in common is that even his critics have started to say that he's an amazing political athlete. Have you heard that? They say he's just the most amazing political athlete. And do you remember in 2015 when I was the lone voice saying, I don't think you realize what's coming? That he has more persuasive ability than anything you've ever seen before. And here we are. I don't like to crow about my good predictions, but it is a show in which I make predictions and then crow about them, so you have to put up with it. It's sort of baked into the business model. I make predictions, I tell you how it's going, and if they're wrong, I eat crow. Anyway, apparently there's a very big deal going down between Samsung and Elon Musk. So Samsung is building a new Texas facility that will be dedicated entirely to making Tesla's next generation AI6 chip, which I guess is important. Now, what's important about this, beyond the fact that two big companies are having an agreement to do something big, is that I think that Samsung's future in the chip making business was a little bit uncertain. And this big deal with Elon Musk gives them, much more stability. So that would put another chip making entity in the United States proper. So that's a big deal, and it would be related to, our most advanced technologies. So that's all good. But Elon has made it even more interesting because he said on X that the Samsung agreed to allow Tesla to assist in maximizing manufacturing efficiency. So, uh, so apparently, Elon Musk personally, and I assume some of his lieutenants, will be able to inspect the Samsung factory for making chips and figure out how to make it more efficient, which is sort of his expertise, making manufacturing efficient. Not sort of, it's his expertise. And imagine if you were Samsung and Elon Musk said to you, you know that factory you're building? Do you mind if I give you some suggestions? If you were Samsung, like you wouldn't be able to get the smile off your face. You'd be like, really? Are you serious? You personally want to walk the line and make suggestions about how to make this more efficient? Yes. Oh my God. So obviously they said yes to that. Although I suppose you could imagine a world in which they made the wrong decision, but they did not. So Samsung will be a little more stable. Tesla's got a big um, source for their chips, and something big's happening there. So as we're watching these big businesses, some of them foreign owned, but coming back to America and revitalizing things, it's happening pretty quickly. Pretty quickly. So, Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, whose job it is, among other things, is to get rid of all the racism in the country. Get rid of all of it. That's all. That's all she has to do. Get rid of all racism. But one of the things she's calling out is that apparently, I guess it was last night in Cincinnati, there was some kind of a mob that attacked some white tourists. I guess the attackers were black and the people being attacked were white tourists. And they got beaten um, quite vigorously. And I don't know anything about that specific situation, so I'm not going to wade into the outrage of it. Um, I feel like with these individual crime situations, it's too easy to say this is telling you the story of everything. It might be just something that was very unique to that situation, and you don't want to generalize it to the rest of the country. But Harmeet Dillon says she's got her eye on it. So if it turns out that was literally a racial hate crime, which it might have been, it might have been just that. She's on it. Good. Well, as you know, Gilly Maxwell answered all the questions that were asked of her by the Justice Department, and about 100 people were mentioned or talked about. And I guess there's some talk of clemency, but Trump has not made any kind of opinion on that yet. So we'll see. That'll be controversial if it happens. It will break apart the mega coalition. You know what's funny is that I totally understand when people get mad about one issue with Trump, but I feel like people ultimately will understand their own best interest. If you thought that Trump did 25 great things and two of them you really thought were, you would have gone the other way, but you observe that there are plenty of people who are on your team who think Trump was right about those two that you don't like as well. Would you not vote for Republicans because you didn't get your two things? Is that the way you'd play it? Sorry, my cat's in my coffee. Cats, don't get in the coffee. No. All right, take a look at him. That's Gary with the red collar on. All right. So every time Trump gets another victory like this European Union trade deal, it's going to be harder and harder to say that you won't vote for him because of something about Epstein. And he's back. All right. So Representative Thomas Massie and Democrat Ro Khanna are pushing for some legislation to release all of the government's files on Epstein. And this raises a question to me. Can Congress overrule the president just by passing some legislation that says release all of that stuff? And wouldn't the president need to sign it? So if you need the president to sign the legislation, but also the president could just tell people to release it anyway, what does the legislation do? So this is yet another one of those situations where if I had, an extra minute, I would have used Grok to look into it and say, can you explain why we need legislation for something that the president could just say, yeah, release all that? So I'm missing something. And by the way, here's a good general rule for you. If someone who is clearly smarter than you has a different opinion about what to do, you should assume that the problem's on your end. And that's what I'm doing on this one. Thomas Massie, he's got an MIT degree. If he and I took an IQ test, I wouldn't like how that would work out for me. He's definitely smarter than me in a lot of obvious ways. So if he thinks this legislation is necessary or useful, he's probably right. So when I tell you I don't understand why we need it, that's pretty much on me. So my assumption is that the problem's on my end. You should always do that. If somebody's smarter than you and you don't get why they're doing what they're doing, don't assume the problem's on their end. They didn't suddenly get dumb. Well, Dan Bongino left a cryptic message on X that I think is just wonderful. So I'm going to read it to you because the whole thing is pretty interesting. It's a little bit long, but Dan Bongino posts, during my tenure here as the Deputy Director of the FBI, I have repeatedly relayed to you that things are happening that might not be immediately visible, but they are happening. All right, so the first thing we need to know is that there might be a bunch of things that are really a big deal that are coming our way, but we don't know when. The director and I are committed to stamping out public corruption and the political weaponization of both law enforcement and intelligence operations. It is a priority for us. Okay. But now it gets to the good stuff. But what I have learned in the course of our properly predicated and necessary investigations into these aforementioned matters has shocked me down to my core. Wait, listen to this. We cannot run a republic like this. I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned. Wow. I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned. Now, might I point out that Dan Bongino has seen a few things in his life? How hard would it be to shock him? Wouldn't it be really hard? I mean, unlike the public that's not paying attention, he he's watched everything. He's seen behind the curtain. He's seen the ugliest political shenanigans. He's seen crimes, the kind that you and I, we're lucky that we haven't seen. What in the world would change him permanently? I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned. What in the world could that be? The only thing I can imagine is as maybe an Epstein thing, or maybe he learned that the way the government is really being run, nobody really understands. Maybe that. I don't know. But wow, he knows how to tease us. So he says we can't go on like this, which clearly indicates that we're going to find out what he knows, at least at a summary level. Do you think it's aliens? No, it's not aliens. He's clearly telling you that you're going to find out. Yeah, I mean, the obvious guess would be something Epstein and child related. But I don't know. I also feel like, well, maybe he learned that the entire governments of the world are all run by blackmail. That's possible. I don't know. I saw a post yesterday, I guess, by Joel Pollock of Breitbart, and he said the sum of Tulsi Gabbard's revelations. Now, I think there's more coming, so we might see some more stuff. Maybe it's already dropped this morning. But here are the three things that Joel summarizes of what we've learned from Tulsi. Number one, Obama ordered a new intelligence assessment after the first one said Russia did not help Trump. Right, that's a good summary. So we know that Obama had an intelligence assessment that said that Russia did not change any votes, but that Obama ordered a new one that would mention that Russia was meddling in the election. All right. Number two, the Russians expected Hillary Clinton to win and had dirt on her. So we did learn that. That's new. And that does change the narrative. Because if you know that the Russians were not really even taking seriously that Trump could win, that makes everything look different. Obviously, they weren't trying to help him win. They were just trying to weaken Hillary Clinton's inevitable government, they assumed. And the Steele dossier was part of the new report, the new thing that Obama ordered. And Brennan lied to Congress when he said it wasn't. And this part I told you about the other day. I guess Brennan found a clever way to include the Steele dossier, but put it in the top secret area so that people couldn't tell that it was in there. Oh, just trust us. There's also some top secret stuff that goes into this analysis. Well, separately, there's more coming. So CIA Director Ratcliffe says there's more evidence coming, and there's at least some people are speculating that whatever is new is coming implicates Hillary Clinton, even more than she's already implicated. I think Gunther Eagleman had that take today. Devin Nunes, who you know was the hero who took all the arrows going after the Russia collusion hoax when it was brand new, and he was in the government. He's not part of the government now, but he's very relevant, so he's been on a lot of podcasts and stuff, news reports. And he says, Devin Nunes says that the raid on Mar-a-Lago might be an important element of the whole Russia hoax conspiracy story, even though you thought they were completely unrelated. Because it could be that they were raiding Mar-a-Lago just to make sure that Trump had not taken some of the Russia hoax documents with him. For what? I don't know, blackmail or something. And that maybe the point of the Mar-a-Lago raid was to look for Russia collusion hoax evidence that they could then hide, I guess. I'm not so sure that I would jump to assume that those stories are connected. I think it would be just as likely, maybe more likely, that the bad guys were just doing everything they could to get Trump in every way, every possible way. All right. There's a pollster named Matt Towery, who the Daily Color News Foundation is talking about him. He was on somebody's show recently. I guess he was on Fox News on Friday. And he says that the pollsters are sort of full of BS, and that he believes that Trump's actual approval rating is far bigger than what the media claims. Now, the media looks at the pollsters, and both of them are fake news, apparently. So not every pollster. There are some pollsters that are, let's say, assertively saying that the other pollsters are fake. So Rasmussen would be one of the ones who asserts that the other pollsters may not be as accurate as people think, but they've got a great track record with presidential stuff, especially. Anyway, so somebody who's in the business, professional pollster Matt Towery, believes that the polls are just sort of rigged and fixed, and that Trump is way more popular than the polling shows. Do you believe that? Does that line up with your, let's say, anecdotal lived life experience? I can't tell, because I'm definitely in a bubble. I just don't know what the average person thinks. I just don't spend time with the average person, I guess. So I don't know. So pollster, I guess he would be a pollster, Frank Luntz. He says that Gavin Newsom and the Democrats are doing a bad job on the attacking Trump stuff. Now, other people have said it, but when Frank Luntz says it, it's it's a little bit more of a professional opinion than when people like me say it. So apparently, Frank Luntz is saying that attacking Trump is just bad, and if the way you're attacking Trump is by acting like him, you can't out-Trump Trump. So, he's sort of mocking and criticizing the Democrats who say, well, we just have to fight harder. And he says, quote, and so we need to punch them in the face harder than they're punching us. And Luntz said, you cannot out-Trump Donald Trump. It will not work. It's why the Democratic Party has its lowest numbers nationwide that it's ever had. Yeah, so he says the negativity just isn't working. Now, you can't out-Trump Trump. You've heard me say that as well, right? And this is where that authenticity thing happens. The reason that Trump can be the way he is that that's who he is. It's authentic. That's who he is. He's literally being the way he's always been, and he's just being Trump. So you can accept a lot when people are transparent and consistent. You just get used to them. So we've now sort of gotten used to Trump. But you can't suddenly be the person who is nothing like that and then try to just layer that over your existing personality and sell it. That's going to look the opposite of authentic. Why would it look the opposite of authentic? Because it literally is by design. They're literally telling Democrats that they should act. They should act. Nobody tells Trump he should act because you're getting full unadulterated Trump all day long. He doesn't need to act anything. Sometimes he could be full of hyperbole, so to speak, but that's who he is. That's who he is. Well, Harry Enton of CNN points out that Democrat favorability has, in fact, hit a new low. CNN is recording them at negative 26 points in favorability, and the Wall Street Journal has them at negative 30. And these are numbers that we haven't seen for 35 years or some very long time. So yeah, they are completely falling apart. There's a Princeton political scientist I saw, I think, on Fox News, Dr. Lauren Wright, who says that Democrats are abandoning the party in part because they don't like being lied to, and that the whole episode about Biden's brain might have turned off Democrats. I have not seen that. Have you? But again, I'm in a bubble, so what I see is not really a guide to anything. But do you believe that people are turning on Democrats, like the existing Democrats, not Biden? Biden is already, everybody knows, is out of the picture. So are Democrats just Democrat voters who are casually paying attention to politics? Do you think they really cared about the Biden brain cover-up and that their own team was lying to them the whole time? I don't know that people really care about that. I think they really care about capability and personality and who can get something done that they want done. I don't believe that they're activated by that. It might be a little bit, but I'm not even sure the average voter could even describe to you the whole auto pen story. I mean, that's something that the political right is dining out on, but I don't know if the political left even sees the story or cares about it, or they saw it once on CNN but didn't follow up on it. I don't know. And then the other lie, according to Dr. Lauren Wright, is that when Trump got in office, democracy would die, but that we don't observe any democracy dying, so the Democrats are losing credibility. To which I say again, are they? Because the Democrats would say, you can see with your own eyes that he's destroyed your democracy. Now, that wouldn't be true, but they believe it. So I don't think that they've wised up and seen that their party is a bunch of hoaxers and liars. And I don't think they're affected by the Russia collusion hoax and knowing that, that the top people in the party were probably colluding to run a coup in the country, and that January 6th was a total, projection sort of play that they always do. That they would run coups and then accuse the other side of running a coup, and there's no evidence that happened. So, yeah, I just think that the lack of having any policy ideas and the lack of a charismatic national candidate is all you need to explain why the Democrats aren't looking good. They lost everything, so people don't like losers, and they don't have anybody who has a positive message that they could turn that around. So you don't want to be associated with somebody who, number one, lost everything, and number two, has absolutely no idea what to do about it. And basically tells you that, by the way. They basically tell you, we have no idea what to do about it. We think we have to punch people in the nose harder. So, yeah, I guess I understand why they're not so popular anymore. Well, here's another story. I don't know if I believe this one, but what's the word for luxury belief? So I'm going to make this one of my luxury beliefs. I think I'm using the term wrong, um, but the idea is I want to believe this is true. All right. So the story is that Trump got Thailand and Cambodia to drop their very brief war against each other. I guess they went to war, and the story is that Trump convinced them to have an unconditional ceasefire, which they've done, um, and that he may have done it by threatening to give them tariffs. Isn't that a little bit too neat? That all he did was get on the phone and tell two warring countries, uh, I'll give you bad trade deals unless you stop firing. And then they immediately just said, all right. And they backed down. I feel like that might have been a case of what I call the fake because. Probably Cambodia and Thailand really, really didn't want to be in a war, as in really, really didn't want to. Like really, really, really didn't want to be in a war. But they would have national pride and ego, and you can't just say never mind. Oh, never mind. I really don't want to be in a war. You look like a loser. So you need some excuse. You need some outside pressure to say, well, okay, given that outside pressure, I guess we'll do a ceasefire. So Trump, because he's got this new little weapon he's created out of nothing, which is the tariff, which, by the way, is the smartest thing anybody ever did in politics, to create a weapon and then use it right in front of people. He just created it, the whole tariff idea. It didn't really exist. I mean, it existed as a thing that people can do, but nobody used it this way. And it's possible that the tariffs ended a war. It's like Trump wakes up, ends a war, and then he golfs. How many wars has he ended while golfing? But he's still got two big ones. He's got Gaza and he's got Ukraine that he's not successful at. But he'll find a way to monetize both of those. Apparently, there's a big FBI sweep about in which 205 child predators were arrested. I hate these kinds of stories. I usually stay away from them because they're just too ick. But this looks like a major deal. And 55 field offices, FBI field offices, were involved. So I often wonder how big this, child predator thing is. I mean, if you went by what you see on social media, you would think it's, half of your neighbors are in on this. But I don't know, because I don't have, the good news is I don't have any connection to that world. So I have no independent way to say, yeah, they don't know the half of it, which might be true. Or, oh, they're making a big deal about it, but it's so rare, which I don't know to be true. I have no idea how to size this. Obviously, if it's one person, it's way too much. And I'll say all the NPC things you have to say. It's the worst thing ever. And even if it happened only once to one person, we should do everything in our power to stop it. We all agree. All right. Trump says that Kamala Harris broke the law by paying for endorsements. That would include Beyonce, Oprah, and Al Sharpton. I believe all three of them say, we didn't pay her. We didn't get paid for these endorsements. I think they would say, oh no, all they did is reimburse the production company so that we weren't paying you. And Al Sharpton, maybe something got donated to a charity he's involved with, something like that. So they would say, no, technically we did not get paid for endorsements. I don't know which way that will go. I suspect that even if they went to court, I don't think that they would be found guilty, but I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. Well, what else is happening? So, you know how people say that the world fertility rate is going down everywhere? Um, and we think it's because of the internet or smartphones. Well, Mark Andreessen points out with a chart that showed that the fertility rate in the world has dropped since 1960, and that was well before internet and phones. So, whatever it is that's taking the average number of children from five worldwide, it was five, down to less than two. Whatever it is, it started well before the internet and smartphones. So what is it? Well, I saw Chamath Palihapitiya on X comment to that. He said, what actually happened was that we stopped valuing having a family and instead became hyper-focused on individual goals. Now, he doesn't say that happened to women, although some of you want to stick that in, right? The myriad books, courses, content, slogans over the past 50 years all reinforce the same incentive. Your fulfillment is largely from professional endeavors. So double down and lean in. Again, he doesn't say that message was for women because I feel like men always thought their profession was their identity. But here's what I think. So I think he's definitely onto something, which is that we stopped valuing it and started valuing individual attainment. But I think it's a follow the money situation. And for other countries, it's also a follow the birth control. They may just have more birth control. It could be that if you eliminate the accidents, your birth rate drops really fast. But I would give you this advice. Don't get married until you can afford the divorce. That's the best marriage advice you'll ever get. Don't get married until you can afford the divorce. That was always my plan because the people giving you the worst advice were commenting to my comment. And the worst advice is this: don't worry about divorce. Just make sure you meet somebody that would never get divorced. How in the world do you think that you can identify the person who will never want a divorce? That's not a thing. Every person who gets married thinks that they found the one person that they could be with forever. And half of them are wrong and they get divorced. And of the ones that don't get divorced, I suspect half of them wish they had the money to get divorced. So if you look at the odds, that whole idea of, well, I'm going to game the system by being so smart, I'll pick the best mate and we'll never have to worry about divorce. Well, okay, some of you will get lucky, but the world is not full of awesome people where everybody can get one of those. Not so easy. All right. Trump says he's going to reduce his 50-day deadline he gave Putin to come up with something to do with peace in Ukraine. And after the 50 days, which now Trump is talking about reducing, because he says he knows what Putin's going to say, which is no to peace, that I guess he's going to sanction him harder. So that's coming. The Israeli government is reportedly opening up some humanitarian aid routes to get food to the starving Gaza people. I will remind you that I don't believe much of anything that comes out of the war zone. So everything that comes out of the war zone is either from one side or the other, and they're only going to release it if it makes their side look good, the other side look bad. So I don't know what caused the food not to get where it was going. I don't know whose fault that was, but if the kids get fed, that's good. I will just point out that when Trump is asked about this, he frames it perfectly because they're trying to fool people like him into taking a side and saying, "Oh, Israel's bad," or "Oh, Israel's doing a great job," and Hamas is the ones who's keeping the food from people. And I frankly have no idea what's going on because I don't believe anything that comes out of there. But when Trump was asked about it, he said, "quote I'm looking for getting people fed right now." That's perfect. So if they try to get him to talk about the ethics and the morality and which side was good and which side was bad and who's lying, it's just a dead end. I mean, nothing good can come from that. So instead, he just makes you focus on the part that mattered. I'm looking for getting people fed right now. Nicely done. Um, yeah, and then he just says you have a lot of starving people, and he wants the European nations to step up as well. Senator Lindsey Graham believes that Trump and the Israeli leaders do not believe a ceasefire deal with Hamas is possible, or maybe not desirable, which would be the same thing. You will recognize that opinion as the one I had at the beginning of this conflict. At the very beginning, I said, you don't think that they're just going to give Gaza back, right? I feel like I was the first one to say that out loud. And Israel was saying from the start that they were looking for, quote, total victory. What does total victory mean? It doesn't mean we give them a black eye and then put them back in business. That's not total victory. That's the opposite. Total victory looks like Japan after World War II or Germany after World War II, where there's an unconditional surrender and one side completely redoes the culture and education system and government of the conquered country. So, given that Hamas is never going to go the way of uh, of Japan or Germany, there's no realistic possibility they're going to say, "All right, you won fair and square. We're going to play along because that's our best bet." This is not going to happen. So, to act as if it might is crazy. So it looks like Lindsey Graham and Trump and Israel have all the same opinion that the one and only thing they can do is completely dominate Gaza, kill everybody in Hamas, and probably depopulate it because it would otherwise it just reconstitutes the way it was. So I would expect nothing to happen about a ceasefire. You're not going to see a ceasefire anytime soon. And I would like to give you a way to know you want to debate. If you get into lots of debates with people, as I find I often do on X, if the other person's point depends on making up your opinion and putting it in quotes, you can declare victory. You don't need to debate anymore. Because if somebody has a real point, they'll say, you said, and then they'll quote you correctly. And then they'll make their point about it, if they have a good point. If they don't have any point at all, a frequent thing that people who have no point do will say, well, you said, and then they'll put quotes around something that you definitely didn't say and would never have said. And then they'll demand that you defend the thing that they just made up. That happened to me twice yesterday. Twice people quoted me just making up something. It wasn't anything I'd said. They just made it up and put it in quotes and said, well, if you're saying this, that means you won. If somebody misquotes you and that's the only way they can win, you don't need to go on. That is your victory right there. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for you today. I'm going to talk privately to the locals people, the beloved locals people. And the rest of you, thanks for joining. We'll be here tomorrow, same time, same place. Sorry I missed yesterday. I had just an insane stomach problem. I feel as though I have the same problem today. I just decided to power through it and pretend I'm not in severe pain. But it seems like it might be a reaction to my new meds because apparently that's a known side effect. So I think that's what's going on. But I'll look into it a little bit more. And locals coming at you privately in 30 seconds.